wanted to be aggressive and they both wanted to match energy with Detroit, but coach saw that quarterback was not feeling it. Quarterback felt coach feeling that he wasn't feeling, and it was just a self-perpetuating cycle after that.
Yeah.
But I do think they wanted to, and you can see that by them going for it on fourth down inside the 10 3 times in a row. I mean, they clearly wanted to go for it and be aggressive, but they just did not have their fastball.
Yeah.
I think that if there were a rematch, a playoff rematch, you would see a totally different game from both teams. But it being in Minnesota changes things a little bit. But Lions fans travel so well, it probably won't matter much anyway.
That brings up another point. Are they ever? Who do we want to play? But before we get to that, I want to answer your question. That's something that's been on my mind. Who do we want to play in the playoffs? But Red,
yes, sir.
I think they've heard that that the Detroit Lions and Minnesota Vikings are the mirror image of each other.
Absolutely not.
So they came out thinking that, hey, look, that everybody thought that it was going to be a high-scoring game. And then you start playing this game, and it's a little different than you thought. They both got tight. Everybody started getting worried. One of the things that I have to say positive about Dan Campbell, this team is mentally tough. Maybe mentally tougher than anybody else in the league, because he's got them playing through adversity like this, and he doesn't. And all those plays that he called, when he called fourth down, and they made it or didn't make it, and he came back and won, it came back to benefit them in this game.
Well,
but again, people thought they were the mirror image of each other. And then it was a low-scoring game. What's this, a defensive game? It shocked Minnesota, but Detroit, again, because they're mentally tough, and I'll give it to the coach. He made them that way. They were able to overcome and score with 31 points.
Well, it's probably one of the criticisms of Dan Campbell, especially early on, that he always appeared as if he were ready to play the game himself. He coached too much like a player, right? You know what? We can do it. We can do it. We can do it. But inevitably, what Dan Campbell has proven is that, you know what? I'm a bite kneecaps. I'm a crack ankles. And you know what? This team will play for 60 minutes, regardless of the circumstances. And who out there?
Well, I appreciate the fact that, the leadership nucleus of this team is so so intertwined and has each other's back, because it'd be very easy for Aaron Glenn and the defense to get really frustrated and play really poorly every time that the Lions go for it on fourth down and they don't get it, especially, on their own side of the field or right at midfield. But they just strap their chin straps on and go back out there and get the ball back or make a stop. They don't complain. They don't gesticulate wildly on the sideline. They just go out there and play football. And the best teams in the league, you see, do that. I mean, the Chiefs have had their worst offensive output since Mahomes got into the league.
Didn't make the Pro Bowl this year.
Didn't make the Pro Bowl. It didn't matter. They lost one game. I mean, the Chiefs haven't scored 30 points all season. They lost one game. I mean, dudes just went out there and go to work, and that's what the Lions have done. They just go out there and they go to work and they do their jobs. They get the ball back, and that's it.
I'll tell you, good point. But, and I'll go back to where the coach, Dan Campbell, it's his strength. They play for him. There's no doubt. They overcome these issues because they really appreciate playing for him. And he told them the other day, thanks for trusting me. Thanks for trusting me. And that's what they do. And because they trust him, they play over some of his tactical errors and minimize them and win games. Well, but I just hope, I've just got my fingers crossed and just hope it doesn't come back to bite them. I want a Super Bowl. I want a Super Bowl for my team, from the city of Detroit. I want it for the city. I want it for the fans that have been loyal, like Reggie, and I want to win.
Well,
So let's hope that we continue that, and then it goes. Who would you guys rather play? You play Minnesota again? Do they learn something? You play the Los Angeles Rams? Have they learned something? Philadelphia is going to be tough regardless. It'll be the first time we've seen them this year. Who do you want to play, guys?
Well, you know what, Mark, when you talk about the next round, I don't want to play Los Angeles between the two. You know what? And I think the one thing that kind of scares me a little bit is when Dan Campbell met Kevin O'Connell at the middle of the field and what he said, "I'll see you in 2 weeks," right? Mm-hmm. I don't think we're going to be seeing Minnesota in 2 weeks. I think you're going to end up seeing, you know what, the former quarterback of the Detroit Lions in 2 weeks. That's what's going to happen. Matt Stafford is coming back to town with that horrible wife of his, unfortunately.
And I remember when they played the last time and we won in the regular season, we said at the time, "Oh, I don't want to see LA again."
Look, you know what, Mark?
Because they're getting closer to us.
It's not the last time. It's the last 2 times that we played. You know what? LA could have easily won either one of those games. The Detroit Lions did not play their best football. And what Matt Stafford did to this defense was tremendous. He picked us apart. It was like, you know what? Being at an arcade game, man. He was just outstanding in that.
I think he was hyped to finally go against the Lions defense for once.
I think so. With a defense that is now worse than the one that he initially played.
Right.
And he comes into this game potentially, if they were to win, with a healthy Nakua.
I was going to say they have all their weapons.
With a healthy Cooper Kupp, mm-hmm. and a running back who I think is outstanding that gets to complement that passing game. So, you know what? He's going to do a lot of play action in that game. Mm-hmm. Not a better. Go ahead.
To Minnesota, do you put all that pressure on him? Hit him every time you get a chance?
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. Matt Stafford's 37 years, who's seen approximately 16 years, 17 years of service in the NFL. If you do what we did no, he'll pick us apart.
Yeah, you can't blitz. You can't blitz that to the extent that the Lions did on Sunday night. You can't do that to Stafford. He's too good under pressure and has too many weapons to. Now, obviously, you will have to have your timely blitzes, but no, the strategy I do not think would look like the Minnesota game plan. I think it would be a different, kind of more of a sit back in your shell type game
plan.
Unfortunately,
we don't have corners that you can say, okay, you know what, we're going to beat up on you. You know what, we're going to play really, really physical football that first 5 yards. First of all, Nakua is too strong for that, man. So, you know what, you try to do that, the next thing you know, he runs a slant on you, and he's running for about 20, 30 yards. Yeah. So when you look at the potential matchups out there, the LA Rams is the team that I don't want to see next. Who I do want to see, you know what, I think the rest of the teams are probably pretty evenly matched out there. Tampa Bay, Washington, Green Bay, all those teams are potentially dangerous. They're not going to be an easy out for the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I mean, Washington and Philly have mobile quarterbacks, what the Lions have struggled with historically and even some this season. Baker already beat the Lions this year. I just think that once you get into the playoffs, everybody's good. This isn't one of those years where we have like a 6-10 or a 7-9 or 7-10 team win the division like we've had in the past. So I think it's going to be a battle, whoever the Lions get. But I think that the way that they're playing and the belief that they're playing with, I don't honestly see them. I mean, obviously the games will be tough. It's the playoffs, but I don't see them losing. So we'll see. But we're gonna take a quick break for a couple minutes. You're listening to Detroit Bullseye Sports here on Dabo Presents. We'll be right back.
Nice shot, Jack.
Thank you.
I'm Mr. Body Catcher, shot a guy, soul snatcher. We'll probably come back and talk a little bit about the front office changes and coaching things that might change. I'm Mr. We're talking about the skills in New York. Okay, taking Aaron Glenn with me, you know. Okay, so we're talking about basketball. Okay, yeah. Okay. I'm Mr. Body Catcher.
This game's still 0-0.
Go to 8:13.
Yeah, it works.
We'll bring you back on the after we come back from break. All right. Okay. You want to lead us back in? Okay.
On a rainy day, trouble never lost your way. When things go wrong, and the day is long. But when you take a phone turn,
It's the weekend players.
and when you're losing ground,
Kind of sounds like Sade a little bit, doesn't it? Yeah.
don't know what to do. I'll be there for you. I'll be
Yeah, it does.
there. I'll be there for you. I'll be there.
Welcome back to Dabo Presents Detroit Bullseye Sports. Mark Jones, Jack Barthwell, and Reggie Walker on the mic this evening. As we talk about the Lions, you know what? We would be remiss if we didn't talk about those things that might be happening off the field. Rumors have it that front office personnel, Chris Spielman, and former football player, linebacker extraordinaire of the Detroit Lions in the 80s and 90s, along with Aaron Glenn, might be taking their services to the New York Jets. Mark Jones, Jack Barthwell, give me a little comment.
Well, I mean, it's a great opportunity for Aaron, especially to go back to a team he played for. I don't envy anybody taking the Jets job. I mean, it does not seem to be a job with much security.
I thought about that job, and I thought about your classic term, man. F that job.
Man, man, if I was Aaron Glenn, that would not be the one I would take.
No.
But I understand, one, as a brother, two, as a defensive coordinator, and three, as a slightly older guy in his 50s,
51?
early 50s.
Yeah.
You got to jump on the first job that you're offered.
He may never get this opportunity.
That's what I'm saying.
Type of money again,
Exactly.
even during his playing days. Right. I don't think Aaron Glenn was making that kind of money.
You got to take the job, especially if the GM is taking you with him to his new gig.
Well, you know what, and I can't help. And I know I've said this before in the program. I truly believe this team was made in Chris Spielman's image because the coach was hired by him and other line personnel. Well, you know what? The only line personnel that was there was Chris Spielman. Right. So guess what? He's got direct access to Sheila Ford Ham, right?
Mm-hmm.
This team is built in the image of Chris Spielman, whether we believe it or not.
Right.
Just the bottom line. And you know what? The type of guy that he is, I think if you were to take that culture to the Jets, which is what they need, a complete enema, right?
Right.
Completely overhaul that culture. Mark Jones, you there? You got a comment for us?
Yeah, I'm listening to what you say. I completely agree. Stillman, as we said before, is the guy that made all this, stirred this pot for the Lions. He's the one that went out and got Dan Campbell, hired him first, and then later Holmes. So I think he can do the same thing. And like you said, hey, and if the Jets want you to take the job, turn them around, and you guys can sail off into the sunset.
You know what? I suspect that, fans around this town are concerned that, hey, who are we going to get as potential OC in DC as a replacement, right? Excuse me, if both of these guys go. You got to remember, both these guys were already here when they were promoted to defensive coordinator and offensive coordinator. I got to think Dan Campbell has somebody in mind who knows what they've done previous, who can relate to the current players that they have, right? And who he trusts well enough to go ahead and get this thing done. Now, I was thinking for a minute that maybe the Lions would say, okay, if Aaron Glenn does get promoted, or gets a new head coaching job, would you consult somebody like a Robert Saleh as a defensive coordinator, or is that too much alpha in the Lions team?
I think the Lions. I think Dan is one of the only. He's reached a level where he's got that kind of cachet where it could possibly work, especially because Dan is an offensive guy and Saleh is a defensive guy, and they don't necessarily have to, bother each other's specialties. I think Saleh probably wants a head coaching job, but he may need to do a rehab year as a coordinator.
Well, the San Francisco 49ers fired their DC, so right. you got to think that, maybe Robert Saleh goes back.
Yeah. There's a couple options for him. I think it's funny because the Lions seem to have a more obvious plan of succession on the offensive side, because if Ben leaves
QB,
you assume that he takes Mark Brunell with him to be his OC, and then Eggstrom becomes the OC, the quarterback's coach, or what's he, the wide receivers coach, passing game coordinator? Tanner Eggstrom.
Yeah,
he becomes
coordinator.
He becomes your OC, and then it should be fairly fluid because he's been learning under Ben and what have you. However, I don't know if Ben Johnson leaves this year.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you mentioned that, Jack. There's some cryptic information there where I was listening to Jared Goff on 97.1 earlier in the week. And so he says, well, hey, what happens if Ben Johnson takes off? He says, well, it's been rumored that he was going to take off many a time, right? Has he said he's going to go?
Right.
He may not go. And it just kind of left the sense that maybe he knows that unless it's the perfect job, he ain't going nowhere.
My dog don't want to be a head coach, is what it sounds like to me. And that's fine, because everybody doesn't need to be CEO or need to be president.
Well, you know what, Jack? Go back to our time in high school, man. In all reality, there's a bunch of betas and a few alphas out there, man.
Yeah.
Right? And then you got some innocuous people that are neither, right? They're just kind of there floating in the abyss, right?
Yeah.
But I look at Ben Johnson. I can't tell you what his voice sounds like.
Yeah, I don't know anything about the dude.
Well, you know what? But look, if you don't have to worry about, because coaching in the NFL is as much about organization and delegating authority through various positions, not just coaches. But
it's not coaching football.
It's not coaching football.
You're a CEO.
Yeah, you gotta get a staff.
Yeah,
you gotta get defensive coordinator, offensive coordinator. You gotta get the upstairs together. You almost got to run the whole organization.
Yeah, you don't get to coach football.
You don't get to coach football.
And I guess the other thing about it, I look at the NFL and I say, okay, this is a league that's 75% African American, right?
Mhm.
It's one thing being the offensive coordinator and taking the task of, delegating to all the various position coaches. This is how we're going to game plan for the week. It's a different thing, man, when you've got a multitude of people on your team from various economic levels.
Right.
And you got to be legitimate and you got to be real to each and every one of those guys.
Yeah.
That is a masterful thing to be able to do, man. To be able to talk to the dude from the hood who would just as easily blow your head off if he wasn't playing football, to the guy that was a mama's boy, right, that grew up in the suburbs, has no idea of what real hardship is. To being able to do that is incredibly tough. And I don't know if Ben Johnson's up to that task, to be
Well,
real.
I mean, it's a big thing to go from being in charge of 25 guys, 26 guys,
Absolutely.
to being in charge of not just those 26 guys, but the 53 dudes on the roster and all the dudes you hired and all the trainers and support staff and
equipment.
blah, 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 blah. It's a like we said, it's a completely different job. I mean, again, I go back to the college thing, but Sharon Moore has mentioned that 50% of his job now as Michigan's head coach is NIL and fundraising. He doesn't even get to coach football anymore. And obviously you don't have to do that same thing in the league, but you have to do the press conferences and you have to do all the radio shows. And, Ben Johnson don't have to go on the radio every Tuesday, win or loss.
You don't know what
Let
his
me
voice
tell you
sounds like.
something. Ben Johnson is waiting for the job that he wants. And if I were him, I know Chicago's after him, and maybe whoever. But I wouldn't go anywhere unless it was warm or a dome. If it was a dome, because that's going to allow his offense, I think, to excel. And don't go to those cold weather places, man.
Well, you know what, Mark? Let me say this, though. Those cold weather places, those inhospitable places like Cleveland and Buffalo, if you got the right talent there, that's a great home field advantage. Who in the hell wants to go to Buffalo in the middle of January?
I mean, look at Miami. Miami can't compete in their division
And used to that
after
cold, man.
October.
Yeah. At least we get the advantage. Yeah, we play in a dome, but you know what? These
They
guys
practice outside.
They practice outside. They get used to it just like we do.
All right, fellas. I got two things to say. First, Mike Jones, he was saying that who would the Lions brother play? It don't matter. It could be Kansas City. It could be Baltimore or whoever. They going down, Mark. And then, and Matthew Stafford, he's going this time. The game ain't going to be close. It's going to be the Lions again. And with our fans, as
The 12th man?
as the 12th man, come on now, And then we're going to have some more healthy players back. If what I understand, Carlton Davis might even come back.
No, he said today that he wasn't coming back.
Oh, he did?
Yeah, Coach Dan Campbell said he won't be back.
Yeah. But it don't matter. Aaron Glenn is a genius. But I'm going to tell you this, though. This is my second part. I think Ben gone, and I think Aaron Glenn is gone. So Lions got to figure out a way with life without them. They're going to have to bring in some people that's just as qualified.
I think
Who
those
those
people.
people is, I don't know.
I think those people are sitting on staff.
And Reverend Sheffield asked you this week, Reggie, specifically you, how long is the Lions run going to go after this year? All of that could impact how we do. Because like you said, the delegator, I think he has great coaches with him. He loses them, where does that leave us?
Well, look, you know what? This is something that you have to prepare for if you're going to be a great team, right? You know what? It's just the fact that for the first time ever in my lifetime, we're talking about losing front office staff. We're talking about losing both coordinators. This has never happened before. I have to imagine that Holmes.
Nobody wanted Russ Thomas?
Say what now?
I said nobody wanted Russ Thomas. Is that what you're telling me?
No. Look, this team has been miserable overall. But you know what, though? They're there, Mark. You know what? Because nobody knew. Aaron Glenn was the defensive backs coach, right?
Mhm.
And Ben Johnson was a wide receiver. No,
Tight ends coach.
Tight ends coach, yeah. So nobody knew. Matter of fact,
tight ends coach on a team coached by a former tight end.
Yeah, I was about to say, but Ben Johnson was a leftover from Patricia's coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
So nobody knew this kid was going to be this.
He only got a shot because Dan took play calling away from Anthony Lynn.
Absolutely. So you know what, Mark? I don't think this team is necessarily distraught by losing these two guys. Yeah, is it going to hurt? But there's somebody waiting in the wings, man, that we don't even know about. There's somebody waiting in the wings that we don't know about.
I mean, it's a good problem to have. I mean, this is the problem that good teams have. Your front office gets rated of talent. Your coordinators and position coaches get rated of talent. If you are a good organization, which the Lions seem to have put in place principles to be and stay a good organization. Yeah, I mean, you roll with it. I mean, those like Reddy said, I think, we've discussed, I think the OC is on staff. We don't know by name too many of the other position coaches, especially on the defensive side, but either they're already on staff or somebody's going to want to come and coach Hutch and Tarian and Kirby. Yeah. So it's not like you're going to have no options to hire a defensive coordinator. It may, I mean, it's hard to say it could be an upgrade with the way they're playing, but on paper, you could possibly upgrade at the defensive coordinator position.
You know what, Jack? If we can, let's demonstrate to the listening audience why we think the Detroit Lions are in such good shape. Go ahead, 2 Live, Luke. Take it away, man. Come on, 2 Live, Luke. Man, I got good stuff, man. I got good stuff. And then what do? You fumble the bag.
Perfect lead in, too.
You know what I love when you guys indirectly tell your coach, relax, we got it. We got it. All right? That's exactly what you guys did out there. You know what good teams do? They don't give a shit who they play. They don't care about the environment, who's playing for them, who's playing for us, what the records are. When you smell competition, you show up. And you guys just proved it again today. You did what you're supposed to do. You did exactly what you're supposed to do. That's what good teams do. Guys, that's 4. You just keep your attitude just like it is right now. And we'll go wherever we want to go, I promise you. I've seen too much of it. I've seen way too much ball as a player and a coach. Trust me, we'll be all right. We'll be just fine. We got the right dudes in this room. We got the right dudes and the right coaches. That's a help.
You know what, Mark? I think that tells you everything that you need to know. As long as that man is running the helm, Detroit Lions are going to be okay.
I would run through a wall for Dan.
No question. I say, Coach, I got 30 seconds for you, and that's it. Yeah. He is a motivator of men. You know what? Not boys, men.
Right.
And you know
that's what. Yeah, and that's I agree with that. I don't have a problem with that. I think he's one of the best I've ever seen at that part of the game. And because of that, he overcomes some of his errors.
You know what?
But whoever hired him, Spillman hired him, he knew that. I got to give it all up to Spillman.
But you know what, though, Mark? You got to understand, in front office, when it comes to coaching decisions and hiring, you know what people hire? They essentially hire themselves, man.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? They project themselves. What type of person do I want on that bench, on that field? You know what? And they typically are going to resemble the people that hired them. I guarantee you that, Mark. I guarantee you that. But you know what? Let's do one more thing before we switch subjects altogether. We think this team, and you asked the question, Mark, how long do you think this team is going to be able to compete? Well, you got a Jared Goff who's 30 years old. I think he's got 3 to 4 more years of primetime football. I think right now he's at, if not close to the apex of his game, he's right there, and I think he can maintain that level for about the next 2 years.
This is what years.
Let's stay on this topic with him. He's been healthy for 3 years, guys. It's not enough to play. How long can he do that for?
Well, here's the thing, Mark.
Quarterback. Most quarterbacks don't get hurt.
He's going to stay healthy because he ain't running, man.
Yeah, he's not going nowhere.
He's not a super athlete. He's not a super athletic quarterback, so therefore he doesn't have to put himself at risk. You know, if you ask me, if he sees pressure, he's kind of crunching up like Manning used to do with New York, right?
Mhm.
I'm going down, man. I'm not taking a big hit from anybody,
Yep.
right? And he lives to fight another day. But here's the thing that's going to be very, very interesting. And we've made the saying now, right? In Holmes we trust.
Mhm.
How well is he going to be able to draft? Because when I look at that defense, for example, I think Brian Branch is a guy you're going to have to sign, right?
Yep.
You got another safety back there that's ranked almost as high as Brian Branch.
Mhm.
Are you going to be able to sign him? I don't think so. Now, maybe it's the other, maybe it's Melifonwu that we're able to give some money to, but not peak him out, right? That allows us to stay competitive.
Right.
JMO, I think, is going to be the most interesting thing because even though St. Brown is the best wide receiver on the team, JMO is the most dangerous, though.
Mm-hmm.
JMO is the one that allows you to be able to scheme different things offensively because of his speed.
Right.
Dude,
He's fast, isn't he, man? He's a joy to watch.
oh my God, he's incredible. So going
Did you
forward,
go get Tyreek Hill?
you know what? I think the question going forward is, does Holmes try to find a replacement for St. Brown?
You just paid him.
Which one
I
do you
hear
keep?
you. Well, I hear you, but it seems like they've already made this choice because one of them has an extension, the other one doesn't. Obviously, it's very early to be trying to extend JMO anyway. But I mean, and I don't want to disparage the young man, but it's a dude that runs a 4.38 and has character issues every year in the draft.
Look, he's the second or third fastest guy in the league.
I feel I'm not saying he's
No, and wait a minute.
replaceable one for one, but you can find it's not like he's running the most elaborate route tree we've ever seen. He running goes and reverses and some crossers.
But you know what though? He's increased his route tree as compared
True.
to just goals. That's what
True.
he was when he first came into the league, right?
True.
So the guy is catching the ball over the middle. He's taking hits,
Mhm.
right? You know what? He's doing some things that's going to challenge. And many of the time we've seen this year where he catches the ball over the middle and it's a 7-yard reception, he's running for 10, 15, 20 yards afterwards.
Right.
It's
Man,
just,
that guy can play.
you know what? You got, Marky, you got Gibbs that you got to talk about. You got to keep Gibbs, right?
Mark, the answer to your question is win this year because there's no such thing as windows in the NFL. Is the real answer.
When you think you have a window, they can close very, very quickly.
I mean, you know, the Lions are doing this without Hutch. Freak injuries happen to everybody every season. There's no such thing as a window. Just win right now.
That's what I say, Reggie. But you said the other day that you thought the Lions had a 2-3 year window.
Well, I mean, that I don't want to speak for Reggie, but I mean, on paper, yes. I mean, their stars are locked up for 3 or 4 more years. They have done well in the draft, so you can infer that they are going to continue doing well in the draft. On paper, the window should probably be open for 2 or 3 years. All I'm saying is we have all been watching football long enough to know that every team is one injury or one pissed off player or one anything away from the wheels falling off.
I mean, look,
Yes.
arguably, Mark, I can say realistically, excuse me, this team should be better next year than they were this year. Barring
I don't.
because of the fact you're going to get Hutch back. All right. Now, the Detroit Lions are a destination team for free agents.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody who's saying, hey, look, man, I got another year, 2 years left in this body. I want to play in Detroit because I think they have one of the best chances of winning. You know what? It's going to be interesting just to see who gets signed, who doesn't. I tend to think that, you know what, Brian Branch is just given. He stays, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think Gibbs stays because he's at the top of his game right now. That two-headed monster is something that makes the Detroit Lions absolutely lethal.
Right.
So you got to sign Gibbs. I think at the end of the day, JMO, as much as I love him, hey, man, you know what? I'll go to the Coney Island and sing you some, man.
Right.
Because
I love him, and I love the fact that he loves the city, and I love the fact that he's an exciting player and blah, blah, blah. I just think the way the team is currently constructed and the way the salary cap looks, you're not going to be able to pay 2 number ones because he's eventually, if he's not 1B right now, he'll be a number 1 next year.
But you know, now see, I think he's a 1B wherever he goes because compare him to, is he as good as Higgins at Cincinnati?
No.
Give him a chance. He's going to grow to that. He said next year. I agree with that.
You know what, Mark? He's an incredible number 2 receiver. But I think he's a number 2 wherever he goes, man. I really do.
Well, because the proof is in the pudding. Let's see what he does. He's growing as a young man and growing as a football player.
Let me ask you a question. Tell me the receiver, a super fast receiver in the league that runs a complete route tree.
There's one.
Tyreek Hill?
That's the one. He only runs the full route tree because he's 5'10". I mean, if he were 6'3", he would run 4 routes.
You know, your namesake Hollywood that was drafted with the Ravens. He's just a go guy.
Yeah,
I can't think of anybody else who runs a complete route tree.
That is that type of archetype.
Absolutely.
I mean, Jamar, but I mean, he's not real. Jamar Chase, but he's not.
But he's not a 2 though either.
No, he's not even remotely a 2. Marvin Harrison played like a 2 this year.
He is a 2.
Okay, I'm glad. All right. Well,
yeah, Marvin. I mean, he's drafted as a 1, but he plays like a 2.
Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one on that island.
No. My fantasy points tell me differently, right?
I don't know. Neighbors was balling.
Neighbors was balling.
Neighbors was playing this year, and he missed 2 games. But to your point, it ain't that many. And to J-Mo's credit, that will get him paid. He has a unique skill. He is growing into the full skill set of a wide receiver. I think somebody is going to back the Brinks truck up for him.
And you want see? I don't see it. I don't see the team that's going to back that up for him. I don't see. J-Mo.
I would murder. I would commit war crimes for him to end up in Kansas City.
Even in Kansas City, I think he's still a 2.
Well, he's still a 2, but I'd pay him like a 1.
I would think your boy Patrick Mahomes would love to have a Jameson Williams down there
because we're missing, and Worthy is supposed to be it, but
he's not that guy.
Worthy can't see and I know we're getting off topic now and talking about other guys, but like Worthy can't track the football in the air to save his life. I mean, they're talking about the dearth of deep shots that the Chiefs have been able to hit this year because he catches all of them out of bounds. It's like he has no idea where his feet are. But anyway, I think that we have clearly reached a level of wide receiver play in the NFL that we haven't seen in a very long time.
Absolutely.
Every team has a legit 1, if not like 2 guys masquerading as ones, or a 1 and a super exciting guy as the 2. Like we've reached a level of wide receiver play that I think is outstanding. But I think that J-Mo has that, speed is that last separator, and I think that is going to keep him at the level that's going to get him just paid ridiculous amounts of money.
Don't underestimate that speed, man. That's not like that.
No, you're absolutely.
Underestimate what people can do with it. Tyreek Hill left Kansas City, and I know they won championships, but they haven't been the same offense that we see.
Well, you know what? We'll talk with Mr. Holmes' uncle in the next few weeks before, or hopefully next week before the playoff game, and we'll have the opportunity to ask him questions. Mark. Well, you know what? We are about to talk. We got to come up with a new nickname for this team, Jack. I want to call them the Cut Your Throat. Who would that be?
Pistons?
The
Stones?
The Cut Your Throat Pistons, man. I like that.
I thought you were talking about the Red Wings.
Absolutely not, man. I'm a black man. I don't know nothing about no hockey. What are you talking about? Only thing I slip on is the ice outside, brother.
I thought you were diverse, man.
I am, but you know what? I stay in my element, man. You know what I'm saying? No, I know brother created hockey, but that ain't for me. No.
You're the only black man I know that likes the cold weather.
I do like the cold weather, man. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. On that note, you know what? Give us about 120 seconds. We're coming back. We're going to talk a little Pistons talk with Mark Jones, Jack Barthwell, and Reggie Walker here on Dabo Sports presents Detroit Bullseye Sports.
Detroit. Welcome back to Dabo Presents Detroit Bullseye Sports. It is Thursday, the 9th of January. We'd be remiss before we get to talking about the Pistons. We'd be remiss if we did not mention the college football playoff is happening. We will have some history this year. There will be a black head coach in the national championship game for the first time ever, because Penn State and Notre Dame are playing right now.
Like you said, I hate both those teams.
I really wish this could end in a 0-0 tie, and they force the rosters to combine for next week.
But you know what? Hey, Mark, hold on for just one second. Why does the world seem to hate James Franklin as coach of Penn State?
So
I root for him.
What'd you say, Mark?
I root for him. They don't think he's a good coach.
He's a great
They don't
recruiter.
even want him.
I don't like James Franklin because no one does less with more in the country. Ryan Day is starting to, but they at least have gone to the playoffs before. He can lean on that. Nobody wastes more 4- and 5-star talent than James Franklin.
So he's a great recruiter, but he doesn't have X's and O's skills.
They don't. His players don't get any better. So he doesn't develop players, and they don't win anything of consequence. I mean, this is the same dude that lost to Brady Hoke 3 times. I know he a brother, and I'm down for the cause.
You know what? I didn't know he was a brother, man. Until I was like, whoa.
Well, he.
We know how that melanin goes,
Right.
man. But I'm not down his brotherhood. You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're saying.
I just didn't know he was a brother. Usually, I could always spot a brother, man. Even when white folks can't.
Right.
But I'm like, I didn't know that was a brother.
Yeah. Hey, like I said, my issue with him is he wastes the most talent in the country.
Gotcha.
I think he's on a Brian Kelly level of wasting talent.
Gotcha. Oh, well, you know what? I think at the end of the day, you know what? Our nemesis, Ohio State's going to end up winning.
Yeah, they're going to win that championship, and they're probably going to blow. I think they're going to blow out Texas too.
I think it's a good thing for Michigan, to be honest with you.
I think Ohio State right now, this today is the best team in college football right now.
Agreed.
I've said this now 4 years in a row, but if I were coaching Ohio State against Michigan, Ohio State would have won by 50 points all 4 years. We're not running the ball.
You've probably thrown the ball 60
I'm
times.
throwing the ball 60 times a game. They can't. You got four NFL wide receivers. Michigan's had 2 cornerbacks the past 4 years. It's incredible. Anyway, it's malpractice that they've lost that game 4 years in a row, but I hope he never leaves.
So we think, Mark, who do you think is going to be in the NCAA championship game?
I'm hoping for Penn State. I want Penn State to win just because of what freshman Ryan Franklin. I want Penn State to win, and I'll take Ohio State as well in the championship.
You want to know something? For the first time ever, I might find myself rooting for Notre Dame because I do like the coach down there. I think he's a good guy, man. I really do. And you know what? That's a tough environment to be able to coach.
He is a Buckeye coaching the Fighting Irish.
See,
I will never in my black ass life root for Marcus Freeman.
I always pull for Buckeyes. You know what? When they would go out on the West Coast and play in the Rose
I'm with
Bowl,
brother Jack.
I always pull for Ohio State.
What Harry Potter say in the movie? Never.
Well, you know what? Speaking of another team that we find ourselves pulling for, what about those Detroit Pistons, man? You know, I think they're the winner of the last 4 games.
Five in a row. One last night.
They're playing Golden State, if I'm not mistaken, at this very moment.
Yeah. Yep.
They play Golden State. I think it's 6 games, ain't it?
It's either 5 or 6. Yeah, because they won last night. They beat
6 out of the last 7.
They beat the Nets by what, 25? They're over 500. When we were on the show last week, they were a game or 2 games under 500. They are over 500.
They're over 500. They're 1 game behind Milwaukee, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, they're in the play-in.
That's right.
They would be.
I think they're in the playoffs.
Yeah.
If the season were to stop right now, the Detroit Pistons would be in the playoffs.
And my prediction is coming true. 40 games.
You on track.
I'm on track.
I don't know what happened. I don't know if they flipped a switch. I don't know if playing on New Year's Day is what they needed. But like they are now. I mean, the schedule has been favorable too, but I mean they balling.
Well, you know what though? Look, let's talk about the fact that when you win 3 games on a West Coast trip with a young squad like this, regardless of what the competition is going to be, anytime you're hanging out in LA, you want to know what that is? That's a distraction. That's a reason to lose.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
And God knows that when they open that Las Vegas team up, oh my God, them cats gonna be at the Spearmint Rhino every single night.
Yeah, it's gonna be an interesting road record.
That will be an incredible advantage for that Las Vegas team, whoever they may end up being.
Yeah.
But so
Mark, the Pistons are down 82-74, down 8 with going into the 4th quarter. So it's money time now.
So, you know, and as we talk about that, what's the biggest reason for the improvement in this team?
Coaching.
Yeah.
Coaching. Bigger staff.
Yeah,
and also they got some veterans to go with the talent, the young talent they had.
Yeah, I don't think the roster has changed demonstrably from last year. I mean, it's constructed better.
Is it the maturation of this youth?
It's the maturation of youth. I think it's the commitment to playing defense. I think it's a little bit of luck. You know, some defense is not all effort. Sometimes it's dudes shots just aren't going down. So I think some of it's luck. But Cade has taken a step. You know, 1, they have Cade, you know, for the whole season. But 2, he's taken a leap.
Don't forget Beasley, though.
Who's that? Yeah, Beasley. Yeah, Beasley has been playing well. He's been a good addition. The outside shooting. The Thompson brother is an improving offensive piece. He still can't shoot a lick, but is improving.
You know, the question.
The pieces fit.
The question I would ask you is the one name that I'm starting to hear amongst the media as far as a possible trade bait is the young Jalen Duren.
I love Duren. I like Duren a lot. I like guys who are young for the league. I think that gives them more room to grow into the league. He's he's one of the most athletic people walking on this earth. He's gotten better both years. I that's not the type of guy I would trade, but at the same time, what are the Pistons trying to do? Do you make a run and go to the playoffs?
I mean, it's a really good question.
Because don't the Pistons lose the first round pick has to convey to, I guess it would be Minnesota now this year?
Uh-huh.
Either you trade him and you get back a first and you kind of just tread water, or you don't trade anybody, you just go for it.
As in,
I mean, you don't blow it up and try to.
Well, look. I mean, let's be real.
I mean, they're not beating Boston, they're not beating Cleveland.
No, but you got 3 stars on this team, right?
Yep.
One of which is hurt right now, and Ivy.
Yep.
You know what? The other one that has capital is Jalen Duren,
Right.
right? Cade Cunningham is an all-star.
Right. And he's not going. I mean, the city would explode if you trade him.
So who's the guy that probably would get traded?
I guess it's got to be Duren because you can't trade the hurt guy.
Can't trade the hurt guy.
And you can't trade the superstar. So,
and when you look at the intangibles, isn't Duren just 20 years old right now?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
He came into the league as a 17-year-old or 18-year-old?
18-year-old, yeah.
Right? So, unfortunately or fortunately, that looks like the piece that you can move and get something for him.
What do you want on this team?
You want a consistent scorer on the wing?
So you need a second option.
Right.
Yeah, the price for that is either of developing a guy with a superstar track development wise, which Duren can be if he reaches his
potential,
his
right?
Potential, and I guess that means you throw in a pick and Duren and come back a wing.
I think that would be a huge mistake to get rid of that guy. Because, like you said, what are you going to get for him? Come on, man.
Well, you're going to get a proven. If you trade him, you have to get a proven veteran. You got to get a guy that's going to come in here and have the potential of scoring somewhere between 15, 20, 21, 22 points a ball game.
Okay, do you help Jimmy get out of Miami?
No.
No. I'm not saying I don't want Jimmy. I'm saying, do you help? Do you become the third team in the trade and end up with Bradley Beal?
I'd make that trade.
I don't know how I don't know how the contracts and the pieces and all the extra stuff would work. But if the centerpiece of that deal is Jimmy goes to Phoenix, Brad comes to Detroit, and a bunch of Flotsam and Jetsam go back to Miami.
Do I want Bradley Beal?
I would take Bradley Beal in a trade like that. No question about it. Look, you know what, Mark? Here's what you got. You got an improving team. We can get happy about that, right? I can turn on the television set, right? Watch FanDuel and be happy that, you know what, my Pistons are going to be competitive.
Right.
If somebody says, hey, I got a pair of tickets to go see the Pistons game, yeah, I'll take them. I'll go see them, right?
Yeah.
So that's the good part about it. But the other part about it is then now, okay, how can I make this team a legitimate contender in the next year to 2 years?
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality of it, Mark, is that in the NBA, there are only 4 or 5 teams competing for a championship in any given year. Right. And you can name them before the first tip-off of the season.
Yep.
All right? So how do you make this team better going forward? You know what? We're not going to be in the lottery this year.
Right.
The kid out of Duke, he's off the table.
He ain't coming.
Yeah. So what are you going to do to make this team better, Mark?
I just don't think you trade a deal. Let him develop. He's got time to do it. He's got a nucleus right now. Let these kids develop and go with it. Don't get rid of it. That's what I'm saying. Keep it.
Yeah. I mean, I think you have to be realistic about where they are and who's competing for what. Is there a universe where it makes sense to trade Duren for a 2 or a 1A or 1B? Yes, absolutely. Do we live in that universe? I don't think so, because I don't think you need to blow this up yet, or I wouldn't even call that blowing it up. I don't think you need to make drastic changes to this roster, I think that, and I was reading an article about this today, we have reached the end of the super team era, and you now have to build a team the way you used to. I mean, you look at what was probably the game of the season 2 nights ago with OKC and Cleveland. Both of those teams built through the draft. I mean, Cleveland did make the trade for Donovan, but I mean, have built their rosters through the draft. Smart free agency signings and smart trades for superstars on the rise from bad or struggling teams. I think the Pistons are in a situation where they can be the next Cleveland or the next OKC in a couple years if they continue to. Well, if they draft well, I can't even say continue to draft well.
And most importantly, are able to get that one free agent who's a legitimate superstar, or let's say quasi-superstar, that gives them that second option on the scene. And you know what? I still believe first option, because I don't believe, as good as Cade is, man, I think in order for the Pistons to do what they're doing, he's got to dominate the ball. Therefore, he's going to get points. Right? I mean, that's just because ain't nobody else to get them for you.
Sure.
But given that, though, it's going to be interesting. You know what? Look, hats off to this management team at the Pistons, because I didn't see it. Leverett did, because he was looking into that crystal ball of his.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see the Pistons performing like this whatsoever. I thought they were going to have 27 wins at the end of the
year. I certainly saw that they were going to improve. But I honestly thought it was just going to be regression to the mean. Like, I didn't think I thought they were going to be a little bit better, but I didn't think they were going to, like, completely change how we talk about the team from last year to this year. I mean, last year we were talking about them like they were redheaded stepchildren.
So is this an indicator of how good a coach Bickerstaff is, or how bad
a coach? I think it's how, I won't even say bad, because you don't go to the finals if you're that's not true, because Mike Brown.
There's a lot of talent on that Phoenix team.
And Doc Rivers both went to the finals and won. But he's not a bad coach, but I think he was absolutely mentally checked out. I mean, he was not going to coach last year, remember?
He stole money.
I don't know if it's not, is it stealing if they give it to you?
You know what? It's stealing if you're not giving me your best.
Okay.
Yeah, it's stealing if you're not going to give me your best. So you know what, man? If you're checked out, say, hey, look, man, you know what? I resign. I'm out. I'm going to attend with my wife who's fighting life with cancer, man.
Right.
You know what? They paid him to do a job,
and he didn't
do it.
Sure. And he didn't do it. He stole money.
Yeah. I mean, you're absolutely.
He was checked out by the first 10 games.
He had reason to be. I'm not going to sit here and disparage him.
Not going to fault him on that.
At the same time, like you said, brother, turn it, call it quits. You have made enough, as what Tom Joyner and Anthony J. Brown used to say, this brother done made enough money by now to go sit down and tend to his family.
No question.
He should have done it after the first tragedy that his family experienced. Now, kudos to him for getting right back on the horse and going back to work and supporting his family, et cetera, et cetera. But, and we can segue into something else, but
no, you know what?
Black men go to therapy, ask for help. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're struggling, do the work that is necessary so that you don't show up to your next job and steal from them people.
What is this, a public service announcement?
Hey, man, whatever. We are a full service show for the community. All I'm saying is don't go to your next job and have people talking about you when you leave. Like, we talk about this man who basically destroyed a good legacy that he had built up, a ton of goodwill in this league.
He'll get another head coaching job.
He'll absolutely get another job. But I mean, just the fall from quote unquote grace, that's not a good look for that brother, Monty Williams. Well, it would not be a good look for anybody.
Only when you have a desperate owner who's willing to.
Listen, you say he'll get another job, but I don't know about that.
He'll get another job, Mark.
I mean, it'll take it. He'll have to be somebody's assistant again. He'll have to go the Steve Sarkisian.
Mike Brown got another job again, right?
Mike Brown got another job.
Got fired again, but Mike Brown got another job.
Frank Vogel got another job. Everybody. Coaching is one of those professions that you can always get you.
It's a fraternity, and it's based upon the guys that you know out there, man. And if there's a lot of guys in front office positions around the league, you're good. You're good.
But But this dude set records with his losing. That's different.
Yeah, I mean, it was bad, but Paul Silas got another job.
Look, Mark, you know what? If Bickerstaff had been on the squad last year, would this team have been better? Absolutely, they would have been. Would they have won? Would they have won more than 30 games, 28 games? I don't think
Not
so.
without Cade.
Not without Cade. That wasn't going to happen, man. But what it did allow, though, it did allow for the development of Jaden Ivey, man, because he was your go-to guy. He was a guy that was playing that point guard position. So I think from that perspective, it was nice, especially once they got rid of Killian Hayes, too, who was just an absolutely horrible draft pick, man.
Is Killian Hayes playing anywhere in the league? He's out, right?
He got signed during the preseason, but I think got cut down the line because he's in the G League.
Yeah, he's in the G League. Yeah, he's in the G League right now. He's definitely in the G League. Well, you know what, Mark? As we end that conversation, you know what? Excellent job, fellas. Thank you very much. You know what? You've been listening to, guess what? Dabo Sports. Wait a minute. Hold on. No, we got my man Hollywood over here, man. He's going back to his Superfly days. He said, no, Red. I got something else to go. Go ahead, Hollywood.
All right. The Pistons is not going to get rid of Durant, right? You had these young guys developing together for 3-4 years. Well, you're going to break that nucleus up. You might add to it, but you ain't going to break it up because Durant is going to be a superstar. He's getting better and better.
Let me ask you something. Go ahead, Mark. I'm sorry.
They'll be sorry if they give him up. I've seen it too many times.
With rare exception, probably the most recent guy that I can think of who ended up being a superstar that wasn't a superstar in his first 3 or 4 years is a Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups didn't become a superstar until he got to the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah.
But with rare exception, that doesn't happen very often in Hollywood.
Well, Chauncey was very lucky. Chauncey, got to the league early and then was a knucklehead. And then got on the clue bus, which does not often happen for our young athletes.
Well, this guy Durant is only 20 years old, Reggie. He's still growing. He's still in college.
But, there are a lot of guys who have come out early and they showed a little bit different, Is he going to be a superstar? Potentially. Does he have that type of talent? Potentially. Does he want it? And, more importantly, has he, this goes back to your issue. Has he had the right professionals around him? So hopefully now with Beef Stew and some other people that we picked up in acquisition over the last Tim Hardaway is just a consistent professional.
Hey, I know we're trying to wrap this up here, but I do need to say this real quick. Can we get Beef Stew some counseling? It seems like once a month he elbowing somebody in the head or trying to scrap with somebody.
No, Jack, that's old school, baby. This is where me and Mark used to play.
Okay, Rick. If Rick Mahorn is back, fine. But I would have liked some warning because this brother, every time I'm on my phone, I get an alert that he got a flagrant foul for elbowing somebody in the head.
You know what? I mean, he doesn't mind giving money back to the league.
Hey, right? I ain't mad at it. Anybody that tries to chase down LeBron and fight him, I love LeBron. Don't get me wrong. But anybody that's willing to chase after a dude that's 6'9", 270 like that, I got respect for the youngin.
Yeah.
I just would like him to rein it in a bit.
Beef Stew.
It's not the same league. It's different when Mahorn and Lambeer was walking around knocking cats out. That was celebrated.
It is a different league.
They don't like that now.
You're right.
We're going to have to talk about the league, though, Jack, because they say that it's not as watched. People don't like to watch it like they used to. And we're going to talk about why. Well, that's for another show.
On that note, we will say adieu. Mark Jones, take us out of this. Another incredible performance of Dabo Sports presents.
Well, you know what I got to say, Detroit. Detroit Bullseye Sports will be back next week, and we're going to have a whole bunch of, don't let me say it, Red, stuff to talk about.
Well, the only thing I can love, baby, when I get home, make sure you got that sandwich made for me, or else.
All right, guys.
Good night, Detroit.
All right, Detroit. We are out. Thank you once again for listening to Dabo Sports. To Live Luke, Hollywood, we out here.